Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show, Red Pill Edition. My name is Leon Jones, and in this video, I'm going to talk about what makes a person resilient. What makes a person resilient? Now, the reason why I picked this topic, it's because we have a number of people who live in this Western society, and everything about them is victimization, it's defeatist, it's envy and jealousy, it's rich against poor, black against white, men against women. You know it. The list goes on and on again. And what is happening is individuals lack information, lack education. They don't care about anybody but themselves. A number of these individuals are failures in life themselves. They don't want to grow. And their whole intent is to sabotage everybody. See, when it comes to being strong, it's not just your brawn, it's your brain, it's your actions, it's your problem solving skills, your critical thinking skills. It's your willingness to get back up when you're down. Now again, your willingness to get back up when you're down and you succeed. That's called resilience, is it not? And that's what this video is about. You see, the military, and I was in the military for 17 years, uses the term resilience. Everything from physical and emotional conditioning programs to the vague but basically beneficial psychological state one should be in during and after a deployment. Now, a deployment is your long-term trip, basically in the field or at sea, because there are a lot of things that happen when you're away from civilization. Now, when it comes to resilience, what is it? Well, broadly defined, resilience is basically a capacity to recover from difficulties and basically spring back to one's original form. Again, it's in layman terms, it's when you fail, you get back up and succeed. Now, more important than the definition are the things that make a person resilient, and here they are. And I talk about them all the time. Common sense principles with practical applications. They are much more useful than theoretical concepts. And this is what I tell people when they go to college. Most of the time, what you get in college is theory. Now, theory can be proven through empirical data, lab reports, but basically you're regurgitating what a professor tells you to remember on a test. Does that make you resilient? No, but it helps you pass a test and it helps you get through a curriculum. Now, when it comes to being red pill, you have to be resilient because you're going to have people around you who are going to question your thinking. Why are they going to question your thinking? Because they're ignorant due to the fact that they still live in the blue pill matrix. And the blue pill matrix has individuals on a plantation. So when you are a free thinker, because you've gotten off the plantation, you have individuals that are always going to criticize you, going to be jealous of you. They're going to hate you. And these are individuals who are supposed to be your loved ones, like your family, your friends. This is why I always say you keep your circle small and you don't allow ignorant people, negative people, people who think they're victims into your life, because they're going to try to influence you with their negativity. And they do that to make you feel good. Now, when it comes to resilient people, one must understand positive versus negative. Now, resilient individuals tend to foster positive emotions more than negative ones. They view life in an optimistic fashion and are hopeful about the future. They appreciate humor. They can laugh at themselves. They choose greatness over cynicism. Now, another form that makes people resilient is someone who's task oriented. So, being task oriented means you follow detail, you do all the assigned tasks to your ability, and you want to go out, you want to do a good job. This goes back to what I just told you before, being optimistic. You want a good result. Now, when it comes to task oriented, instead of passively waiting to see what happens, a resilient person basically identifies issues that can be changed and they change them. And when something can't be changed, they learn to accept it. That's part of the blue pill philosophy. See, we accept what is already going on. Now, can we change some things? We can. But there are some areas where it is what it is. Nothing we can do about it. But we maintain a positive focus. And that's what makes us different than blue pill. See, blue pill individuals don't live in reality. Again, I'm going to talk about women in this part. They actually believe women can change. Well, they can change, but women aren't going to change. Why would they? They're already benefiting off of feminism. But as a red pill man, we accept women's nature. We understand it. We don't like it, but we understand it. And we know how to deal with it. And we don't live in emotion. Now, something else that you have to understand when it comes to being resilient, you have to have flexible thinking. So, when you have flexible thinking, you're able to think outside the box sometimes, and you're able to think inside the box. And when people are flexible, they tend to be a little bit more balanced. Now, cognitive rigidity is the enemy of resiliency. So the ability to think on your feet and generate alternative solutions, thoughts, and ideas is key to maintaining psychological strength. Now, limited options basically lead to limited solutions. So again, when you think, you have to think from a balanced perspective. Can't always be rigid, but you can't always be laissez-faire either. You have to know when to be rigid and when to be laissez-faire. And when you add those two up, you get flexible thinking. And it's very important that you have a strong mindset, because as a resilient person, you're a leader. People do look up to you. You're going to have to be a teacher, and you're going to have to deal with individuals that are going to ask you a lot of questions. You have to have patience. And in fact, resilient people have a lot of motivation, a lot of enthusiasm, along with their optimism. And one thing they lack is the attitude of defeatism. Usually when somebody is defeated, they basically blame others. They have excuses. They're lazy. And they're jealous of people who are more successful than they are. So what they want to do is shame the more successful person by telling them that, oh, you're not all of that. Well, in that negative person's eyes, he or she is lower than that successful person. So to make himself or her feel good at the negative level, he wants to criticize the successful person. We have a lot of that that's going on in society, and this is why we generally make excuses. This is why we have a mediocre level in this country. Now, one thing that you have to understand as well, as part of resilience, let's talk about fitness and health. Now, I am an advocate of fitness and health. I go out, I run, jog 5 to 10 miles a day, do calisthenics because it is important. Because as an African American, we have a high rate of sugar issues, eating carbohydrates, grease. A lot of us tend to be overweight, have cardiovascular issues, high blood pressure. We have a lot of those issues. Strokes. And if we're not properly into physical activity, we're going to suffer diabetes. That's it, diabetes. And when we don't have a high degree of physical activity, we're going to maintain the way we are. We're going to get complacent. And when you're complacent and you become well overweight, and I'm talking about without a shape, overweight to where you look like a balloon and you can't move, there's no hope for you. And you get individuals who lack health and fitness that shun individuals who are getting health and fitness in. And again, with this country, with the policies, they allow the emotional thinking of individuals who are poor, overweight, uneducated. We allow that. And these individuals, they're allowed to criticize successful, healthy, educated, but when it's the other way around, now you're being a bully. It's double standard thinking. And to be resilient, you got to get through that double standard thinking by not dealing with individuals who are negative. Because the negative individual, all they're going to cause you to do is react emotionally, and then you're going to be like them. Because the whole purpose of the negative person is to get you in their circle. They're not right about what they do, but they feel good about what they do. Now, when it comes to individuals who are in physical health, well, an important aspect of resiliency is maintaining adequate physical health. Why? Because you avoid risk. Like I said, diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease. Now, when I say physical health, I mean proper dieting. You have to be active. And activity includes regular exercise, proper nutrition, limiting or eliminating the use of alcohol, tobacco, and of course caffeine, and avoiding careless and reckless behavior. Now, some people get into the stage of depression. What do? They eat more. They're not thinking about what's going on. You also get regular checkups. Keep your blood pressure down. Maintain a comfortability about your health. Make sure you can get up and walk. Breathe. Again, eat a balanced diet. Because to be a resilient person, you have to have discipline. Because everything is going to be coming at you. Again, you'll have jealous people. You're going to have a lot of propaganda that says you're no better than the person who's a victim. Everything coming out of the woodworks. And to be strong, you're going to have to endure that. And this is why you go red pill. Now, what about somebody who is non-resilient? Again, I'm going to keep it fair and balanced. Well, usually when somebody is non-resilient, they have self-focused defeatism. Because non-resilient individuals adopt a defeatist attitude. They see themselves as victims and bystanders with little control over what happens to them. They entertain such thoughts as, I'm broken, I'm weak, life's a bitch, life is hard. Life is what you make it. Again, number of people who are non-resilient, they're complacent in failure because people will come and sympathize for them. And it takes no work to be a failure. Now, one aspect of being non-resilient, talked about emotions. What about emotional disengagement? Well, it's easy to emotionally withdraw from something. What makes it harder is to purposely confront the thoughts and feelings that make us uncomfortable. And one big thought or one big emotion that I have that goes with emotional disengagement is denial. Denial also runs into isolation and avoidance. They're also hallmarks of a lack of resilience. Now, of course, you have some who have egos, insecurity. They lack focus because these are individuals who are down on life. They want to give up on life, and sometimes they do give up on life. Now, here's another thing. When it comes to having a conversation, and I see this in the African American community, and this is why we don't get anywhere as a people, because many of us don't know how to deal with viewpoints that are competing. Just because somebody says something that I don't agree with, it doesn't mean that they're right or wrong, and vice versa. But we tend to want to put everybody in this one box. And when it comes to African Americans and women, we're all known as monolithic thinkers. Many of us vote for one party, the Democrat Party. Of course, the Democrat Party still hasn't helped out blacks and women. But they know how to sell it to make it look like the Republican Party is not doing anything for blacks and women. Again, the Democratic Party, what they do, they actually encourage victimization. Why? Because the Democrats, in order to stay in power, want to utilize government to redistribute successful people's wealth to individuals who don't have anything. And this has been an ongoing problem. And if you look at education, education doesn't have a balance, puts down men, it encourages women, puts boys on Ritalin, it allows boys to be around female teachers all the time, doesn't allow boys to develop. Then you have religion. Religion, I'm not saying I don't believe in God, because I do, but there are a number of churches. And what these churches do, they just take money from their congregation. And these preachers, they're thieves themselves. Now, I've called out the black pastor, too. These black pastors are no good. They come in, they're dressed, they put a lot of women in the pulpit, and these women just pass around their money. In fact, some of these churches, believe it or not, they have ATM machines in those churches. Now, I remember the minstrels of LA and the minstrels of Detroit. They were living lavish lifestyles from religion. And this is why I don't go. I just sit home and read my own Bible, because a lot of your Christian religion, Islamic religion, and your Judaism, it's all man-made. And if you don't believe me, go check that video I did out months ago on Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. And I broke it down, and I told you the paganism that is associated with it. So when it comes to viewpoints like religion and politics and education, a lot of people don't want to hear those topics because they're uncomfortable. Well, usually when people are not resilient, they avoid competing viewpoints. Why? Because their feelings might be hurt. They don't want to deal with the truth. So when it comes to non-resilient people, they tend to gravitate toward people who agree with them. Again, this is what the left-wingers do. This is why if you watch a lot of the left-wing television programs, you'll have one conservative and about 5 liberals. Now, when it comes to non-resilient people, they have a demonic attitude or mob rules attitude. They won't take you on one by one. They need 5 of them or 4 of them against one of you. And usually the conservative guy, he or she is more resilient because they don't get as emotional and they know that that network is against them. But they get through it because they state facts, not emotion. And you have a number of non-resilient people. Again, they gravitate people that they agree with. And when they find those people that they agree with, they latch on to those people. While it can be helpful to align with people who share their views and support their positions, well, many of them have maladaptive thoughts and behaviors reinforced. Again, these are the individuals, and it can happen on the conservative side because indoctrination works on both sides. And what non-resilient people have is they are afraid to interact with people like myself who will challenge their viewpoints. In fact, if I challenge a viewpoint, I'm going to be labeled like a woman's viewpoint. I'm going to be labeled a misogynist. If I challenge a gay, a lesbian, or transgender, I'm going to be labeled some type of homophobe or transphobe. If I don't like the position of another African American, I'm going to be labeled as a coon. You see where I'm coming from? These individuals aren't resilient because they're used to being around people that they associate with, and there is no dissenting position. Now, and these people don't grow, and they're not very smart people. They react emotionally. This is why I don't get on any of the hangouts. So it's very important as a man in the red pill community to always be resilient, because you're going to be challenged no matter what. You think you have friends, those friends that you grew up with, they find out that you have a different outlook on life, a much positive outlook on life, they're going to try to chastise you for it. Your own family, the ones who are supposed to be in your corner, they're going to be jealous of your success. Why? Because you decided to leave the systematic plantation that your family, your friends, and your other colleagues have been comfortable with, and you started thinking on your own, and you actually see how the world works. Again, resilient people focus on common sense and reality, and the truth comes basically from being spiritual, healthy fitness-wise, understanding who you are, understanding that when you're red pill, you're constantly growing, seeking higher truth. There are many truths out there, but you want to understand the truth again from a spiritual as well as a physical and a mental standpoint. Because to be resilient, you're always going to be challenged. Non-resilient people, for the most part, they're going to have their hands held. Why? Because these are the individuals that we feel sorry for, the lowest people. Well, these individuals, if you give them a hand up, they want a hand out. They don't want to do anything for themselves. And non-resilient people, they're definitely a voting bloc. So, again, to be resilient, you must understand to be resilient, you got to be strong. You got to maintain. Because again, resilient people understand common sense principles with practical applications. Why? Because they're useful. They're in layman terms. And everybody understands layman terms. In the real world, Many of us understand application over theory. And again, when it comes to critical thinking, you got to be flexible. Everything can't be rigid, but everything can't be laissez-faire. And you always have to be positive, energetic, enthusiastic, optimistic if you're resilient. You have to be task-oriented. You have to make sure your fitness and health are together. Whereas if you're non-resilient, you're always focused on defeatism. You have emotional disengagement. You also don't live in a world of reality. You live in a world of delusion, emotion, and you avoid competing viewpoints. So, at the end of the day, to be a red pill man, you always have to be resilient. And don't let anybody tell you what you can or cannot do. Because as a man, a red pill man, masculinity isn't toxic. The people who think masculinity is toxic, they're toxic. They're your enemy, and stay away from them. Because at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with being a man. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 401 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. You can catch me on Blog Talk Radio every weekend. And you can check out my new channel, The Mind of STEM. That channel is less controversial. On that channel, I talk about science, technology, engineering, and math. And there are different subjects within STEM that you need to know if you are looking for a career in science, technology, engineering, and math. You can also catch me on Blog Talk Radio every Saturday or Sunday. Sometimes I do a show on Friday, and I talk a lot about red pill content. And if you can't find my videos, I'm on Facebook and I'm on Twitter. And my Blog Talk Radio shows, I do have a call-in number, 215-383-5785. I've been doing my Blog Talk Radio in commentary format because I like doing it in commentary format because it gives me a quality show. And I like my audience not to hear people talking over one another, cell phones going off, background noise. Because when you come here to the 401 Talk Zone radio show, Blog Talk Radio, and of course YouTube and the Mind of STEM, you get education right here. And my job is to make sure that you leave with knowledge that you didn't have before. So please comment, share, and subscribe. And again, that's it for this video. Once again, my name is Leon Jones. You have a good night. I'm out.